So thank you very much, everyone, for joining this session. And I'm sure you all had a great lunch. And this will be a little bit of an eye-opener for all of you because you all must be feeling very lethargic after good lunch. So introducing this panel, we are now going to discuss about hiring strategies winning the talent war. So we've been seeing that, when it comes to hiring, everyone has their own questions with respect to what is it that talent should do in order to get the good, placement. What is it that an employee needs to do in order to get the right talent? So we have this great panel here who is going to actually spill some beans as to what is it that really will take us through this entire process of hiring strategies and how to really win this talent war. So I'll start my panel by asking Mr. Batra. So Mr. Batra, we do see that we all have a lot of young students also here. When it comes to them, approaching for a placement, or when it comes to them for approaching the right place to work at, what is it that they really need to look at? What is it that the key factors, maybe 3 to 4 key factors that they should actually look at?
Good afternoon. I had a good lunch. So, to the question that you asked me, things look simple, but sometimes they're not. For a youngster in our profession, because we'll be confining ourselves to the legal hiring as such. For all youngsters, I believe number one, it's a battle of perception today. When you're picked up by a big law firm or a big law office, ultimately, it's firstly your CV, the bio that you makes the first impression. But these days, if you ask me very practically, it's not just the bio also. We have so many social media platforms. One of the most serious ones is LinkedIn. So even if I go to LinkedIn and even if when I get to meet some lawyer, maybe some fellow panelists here whom I do not know, once you exchange cards, the next thing you do sometimes is see them on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is such a thing that when you're on a social media platform, anyone, maybe LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, look, you're being watched. Your actions are being watched. Which side you're going towards is being watched. Even whatever you like on these platforms are seen. So I said perception. Firstly, you have to make sure that you are perceived to be the right candidate in public. And I was discussing with Kriti before coming for this talk that ultimately what happens is that you want to pick about anyone. You want to today know about anyone. Maybe you want to know about me. It's very easier. You Google, you get my name, write advocate. You will get all my profiles, what I've been doing, which articles I've been writing, which places I've been going, which conferences I've been attending. So that paves the way. And that's the first judgment any recruiter for any youngster will make. The first thing I will do if I have to recruit someone is that I will check on the social media. And then I'll check what the movements are, what kind of a thinking that person is. And your thinking is ultimately shown by the moves that you make. So concluding on this, I say that you have to keep your social media image very, very powerful. It should be very powerful. And it should be reflecting of what your ethics, what actually you want to do, is what I say.
Thank you. So, Mr. Kalra, to understand from you, when it comes to hiring and when it comes to your expectations vis-a-vis the candidates' expectations, what are the gaps that you may have experienced, in the recent past, especially? What is it that you feel that is a bridge that needs to be, there's a gap that needs to be bridged?
Thanks, Peter. Learned panelists. So, as an in-house lawyer, basically, I also been a practicing lawyer earlier days. If I personally feel, I'll just start with what you look in a candidate first, and then we'll see what the gap have to fill in. So, prospect, which was there 20 years back, of a lawyer basically working with a law firm or with a lawyer or with a corporate firm, was totally on a different stake at that time. I myself started as a lawyer with no money from my senior. That was the profession time which we started around. And today's profession speaks about when you ask a person to join, a fresher to join, asking a fresher to join, he asks first of all, what is the CTC or what is the amount you are going to pay me host? Then he start to want and then I start to learn basically. So nevertheless, if you're a fresher basically, one gap comes on adaptability of getting what they want and how you work on it. Secondly, we never worked on my terms basically when I started. We worked on the terms of my senior, how to work on, what long to work on, how to draft and how to result. Today, after 6, you ask a fresher guy to work around, he'll turn up, I have a personal meetings, I have commitments, I may not be available. Then what will happen? The boss have to do the work. That is what the concern is. The other round which we talk about, with a candidate, right candidate to find out, basic is a quality basically which everyone looks into, and getting a right talent with the right quality, it's a very difficult task. And plus, a person who is want to be stable, who is loyal, trustworthy, that is also biggest task today's world basically, which every lawyer or every company is facing today. If I tell you the goals which are there of lawyers today or in-house counsels at a medium level is a short-term goal. 2 years is okay, I have to turn around, I'll get a better package and move on. That's loyalty and stability has gone, and which everyone looks into. Yes, a person is stable, he wants to work with us. What better results he can give us basically, what results basically, what Mr. Batra talked about, social media. So why social media has been checked, but what result, what orientation he has given his own, basically, what he has come out of it. That is what we also look into. And when we talk about the candidate, when we interview the candidate also, we feel there are plus negatives of everyone, which can be worked upon. But if you're only negative only and you're only positive, then you need to have attitude to be positive, to work around, and you will work around the turnaround time. This is what basic thing is required. Right. That's from my side. Thank you.
Right. Taking that forward, Kriti, because you're also part of the in-house team. When the candidates actually come and approach and they have questions of, let's say, what is a CTC and what is it that my role will entail, etc. Because nowadays we know that lawyers and even otherwise candidates are very, very abreast with, what their rights should be, etc. How is it that the employer perceives? Is there a prejudice already as to this candidate may not be, ready to learn and he's only interested or she's only interested in the CTC or, XYZ factors? Is there a prejudice which already comes in the mind of, a hiring, employer?
So that's a great question. Not at all. So I think it's fair to have certain number in mind. You should know your credibility and your worth. There's nothing wrong in that. But don't be abrupt. Do your homework right. Create a script. Learn how to speak when you are negotiating that you think you are worthy of more than what the HR or the manager, the hiring manager is offering. And that's when you have to go back to the board. And so write down the don'ts. Do's we all know, but don'ts are do not go unprepared. Yeah. You should know what you want and you should be clear about it. And that's the only way you will be able to tell the hiring manager or the HR of a company or a law firm that this is the reason, these are the points because of which I think I'm worth it. So have that confidence and humility together. So that's very important. It has to go hand in hand, and nobody is judging you. You are way too young, but you should be willing to learn. And I think a lot of senior people who were before us, I think Hemant Kumar sir said the same thing, that it's okay to say no. I know this and I don't know this, but don't confuse the hiring manager, and don't. So you should not have a wrong ask with the wrong justification. So that's my only say here.
Right. Mr. Dewan, to understand the fact that nowadays lawyers have become, or the freshers, when they come out of law colleges, they have an inclination towards a certain practice area. Is that the right thing, or whether they should be open? How is it that you look at, and what is it that you actually would recommend the freshers especially?
Yeah, hi. So, obviously, as we are moving, is today's era, all law firms and even the in-house, the expectation is everyone wants to work with a specialized lawyer or a person who's specializing in an area. Obviously, we, as lawyer, we are of a different generation. When we were expected, I started my profession, 25 years back, we were working in all areas of practice. There was nothing called being specialized. But coming to this generation, yes, we also focus, and when we do a hiring, we hire for a particular team. So if we are hiring for a dispute resolution or a project financing or for a corporate team, so we will also be very clear to a fresher coming in, and we'll also look at. So even when I'm going to a law school for hiring, I will stress upon the CV or his internships, because definitely if a lawyer in his 5 years of law school has done all dispute resolution internships and get inclination to do a dispute resolution, getting him to work in a corporate area would be unfair, and vice versa. So definitely, to answer your question, yes, I think it's need of the hour to have lawyers, especially the young ones, or hiring them for a particular area of practice, and especially the lawyers too, because when we hire someone, we always encourage them to be very clear about the area, because obviously, because there are times when a lawyer would say, oh, if you don't have a vacancy in area A, you can hire me for B or hire me for C, just hire me. But 6 months down the line or 4 months down the line, they become very dissatisfied, because that's not their passion is, and they have no interest. So I would say it's best interest of the law firms and the young lawyers to be very clear what they're hiring a person for, because it's not the time and era where the clients would also not appreciate when you would a dispute resolution lawyer would sit in a corporate meeting or would try to do a transactional work, or you will get an IP lawyer to go and practice, appear before a judge. So I think each area of practice, and definitely the young generation, I think I would really appreciate the young lawyers, because they are very focused now. It's because when we are going to go law schools or people are coming for hiring, they would be very, very clear, yes, most of them, that we want to work in A or B practice areas. And there are times where we have not hired a person, because we, being a boutique firm, we would not obviously have 15 areas of practice.
Kirti, what is your take on this aspect when it comes to what Mr. Dewan shared, that yes, you need to have a specialized area, especially in today's times when lawyers are very, very aware, and they are very, very active in terms of what they need to do, what they don't need to do, and they've been, and especially the fact that Mr. Dewan really threw some light on the fact that when they have been interning in a specific field of area. What is your take on that? Whether that should be the case, or whether they should be with an open mind and maybe specialize after a few years?
Thanks, Kriti. Thank you. Actually, as much as I agree with Mr. Dewan, I do beg to disagree as well. I come from a generation when we weren't as focused at what field we want to get into. Given my example, I did most of my internship in corporate. So when I joined litigation, the moment I stepped into Supreme Court, I just knew that this is where I belong. So I feel it's very good to know. It's very good to know that you're focused, you know what you want to do. But at the same time, just relax. It's all right if you don't know. Just find a law firm or find an advocate or a chamber where you feel you'll get the most exposure, experience, see where you fit in, see what you actually like, and then jump into it, rather than just being blindly jumping into it. I get these queries from interns. They said, do you practice IPR? I said, no, we don't. He said, no, then we're not interested. And I personally feel that that's a very wrong thing to say. And not because they're not doing it in my firm, it's just that I feel, you should at least have the courage to actually explore what lies beyond that also, and then maybe take a very, a reasonable decision that this is what you want to practice. Of course, you do, and you never know what lies ahead. I mean, life may surprise you. You may actually, love practicing what you never thought you would. There are so many fields coming up. Every day it's a new thing. So I feel that it's really required that you actually explore first and then move ahead.
Thank you. Charanya, if you could let us know what are the 3 advantages and disadvantages to work in a firm, vis-a-vis. I mean, you don't have to tell us about the in-house or that. I'll come to him for
versus chamber.
Versus chamber. Yes.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. I think that's a very good question, very difficult. I've so, and I think I'm okay. I'm equipped to answer that because I worked in the firm first for about 8 years in my firm. Then moved out of the firm. I was in Mr. Venugopal's chamber for about 3 years, and then came back to the firm. So I think advantages. Let me start with the chamber practice. Okay, I think I still love the 3 years that I spent there. The advantages of a chamber practice, of course, is the fact that you're going to be with a generalist. That is, it all depends on your life is really going to be the life that your chamber senior leads, and it's just going to be around that. So you have no control over your life, which initially looks very scary, but it's very liberating because you don't have to think. You're just, it's fine. Someone else is doing all the thinking. You're given a file. You just have to study. You just have to assist your senior in the best possible manner. And you have to ensure that there are no major gaps that happen during the hearing. Number one. Number two, I feel, again, generalization. You are able to do a variety of matters. I think chamber practice is nice because it opens your mind. Something that Kirti also said, that you have to have an open mind, right? And so chamber practice definitely gives that. It gives that, it breaks these mental barriers. A lot of the times we are not able to succeed, or we keep questioning ourselves is because of mental barriers. And then, of course, the exponential growth in knowledge, I feel, and of course, it depends from chamber to chamber, but I was very lucky to be in a chamber where a lot of onus was on the juniors and not on the briefing councils, because sir used to rely a lot on us. Briefing councils used to come, brief him definitely, but notes had to be made by us. So that really taught you the subject. And I think the biggest advantage of being a chamber junior is you don't have to answer emails. For 3 years,
Wow.
I didn't open my email except to download notes, which I would mail to myself. Can you imagine how awesome I felt for 3 years? Zero administration, right? Now, when you come to a firm, of course, all that changes. There is definitely much more administration when you are working in a firm. But again, if we are going to talk about the juniors, I think today we're talking about either freshers or people in the first 2-3 years of their career. Yes, there is usually in firms, there is a specialization. For example, in our firm, we are known to be a tax and IP firm. We have a corporate team and we have a commercial disputes team. The corporate and the commercial disputes team are the two teams where you'll get general work. But it's interesting because when people come and apply to us, there are people who are very, very focused. In their final year, in their 4th year, they're saying, no, I want to do tax. I want to do anti-dumping. I want to do, and I am amazed at the kind of clarity with which, they're able to say that. So definitely you will get specialization, and which is also the need of the hour. I mean, there is, pro and con for both. And of course, I think firm gives you a little more, I think it's a little more remunerative to work in a firm. It also depends on what you want in your life. Do you want to be a litigating lawyer? Do you want to be a corporate lawyer? Do you want to grow your own practice? Would you like to start your own chamber practice? Or are you happy being in a firm and then growing, becoming a partner and, growing a book of clients? So that, of course, is something that, they have to account for.
Right. Thank you so much, Charanya. Mr. Kalra, taking this forward and sharing about the in-house practice. How is that, maybe pros and cons for that?
So when you talk about in-house counsel, basically, it's basically, it's not lawyer. Basically, it's a business counsel, basically a business lawyer, basically, where a business lawyer need to understand the business first, the needs of the business, basically. Accordingly, analyze the risk, which is the must thing, which is required to be, and post analyzing those risks, he has to advise, basically, and thereafter move forward. So one part is a business lawyer. There are multiple sectors which are there, which you talked about, like there are streams also, IP, data protection, now grievance office. A lot of laws are coming away, specific manhold is required. A person is required to be dedicated. These are the lawyers only who are fit into the places basically. But the best part for the lawyer who is going to be in-house is this one. Secondly, is that stability is there. Monthly remuneration is there. A lot of law firms have this process, but if you go to individual lawyers, you fail challenges on those part also. Then apart from that, you can also jump into one profile to other profile, depend on your capability of working around. So these are the benefits one we looked into. And as an in-house counsel, which I personally feel that what is that you are very close to the business side, and when you close to the business, you are close to the board also. And you can understand the business very well, and you can also talk about that when you go to litigation side. I can myself practice and go to argue before the court. I have done multiple times later in my life also. And I have argued multiple times, I got favorable orders also. So how it works upon you are the best judge of your business basically, and understand the business and speak about. So that's the main benefits which I feel that in-house counsel is there. Right. Apart from that, I have been also to all three sides of mine as a as an individual lawyer, then a law firm, and then briefing the senior also, and then law. You can move around here and there also for a bit.
So Kriti, taking this forward from Mr. Kalra, when it comes to in-house and of course the pros and cons you shared that, the stability, etc. So do you also agree that when it comes to practicing as an in-house counsel, you will need to know all facets of law? You cannot be restricted to one because the company may have any dispute, under the sun. So do you really agree to that, and what is your take on this?
So, see, I think being an in-house counsel, the first thing which you should know is you're not just a lawyer, you are a business enabler. So what you have to do is you have to understand the business well. And always remember, as a lawyer, you have to learn to tame your temperament. Okay? So from the softer side of aspects, always learn to behave yourself, irrespective of whatever the situation be. Always learn to have that, patience, humbleness, and calm. Even if you have to get up early and meditate for 30 minutes daily, okay? But as an in-house counsel, I think it's not just about knowing what the book says, but also learning how a business is run. And it's not easy to run a successful business. You are fending a lot of people who are working with you, under you. So you have to be very wary and very sensitive about a lot of aspects. So even if you are well read and you go back to the book, you deep dive, you sit with someone and understand the business, and then practically understand how to imbibe and implicate those learnings as a lawyer into the business. Because till the time we don't have a solution-oriented mindset and attitude, I don't think we'll be able to, I'm sorry about this. I don't think we'll be able to do justice to an in-house profile. So that's what we have to be always conscious about. And of course, teamwork is what should always be on top of your mind, irrespective.
Right. Mr. Batra, when it comes to hiring, and you did explain just in the beginning that when you hire, we do see their social profiles and what is it that they do socially, as etc. Because nowadays it's all very in the open, right? Apart from this, when you do hire, or when there's hiring happening, what are the factors that we are looking at in terms of quality, in terms of experience, and this need not be fresher, this obviously, because we are talking about experience. So what are the key factors that we look at, and what is it that really hits us or hits a employer, the hiring manager? What is it that one factor, two factor that hits us while hiring?
So just to first take a cue from what Kriti said, I think the first and foremost is that you should get your fare out. And she was saying that you should behave yourself. I will say that gratitude. Ultimately, you should be grateful for what you have and grateful to others, if you ask me. You will never get what you deserve. I mean, nobody gets what one deserves at the end of the day. But you always get what you expect, what your expectations are. Coming back to the question as to what qualities do you look for when somebody comes for a recruitment, when you consider somebody for recruiting in your law firm or in your chamber. I think what I personally, if you ask me, I think none of the employer think that you are expected to know everything under the sun. Yeah. You're not expected to know that. And I think a good lawyer is one who knows where the law is, not what the law is. I'm sure all the panelists sitting here, after putting 15, 20 years of practice, you're not expected to know everything. And that's not humanly possible as well. But yes, of course, as one of the other panelists was saying that, in fact, Charanya was only saying that they come up, that they want to do anti-dumping. Youngsters are really motivated towards doing separate areas of practice. And my friend on the other side was saying that when we started practicing, obviously it was miscellaneous work. You were doing everything possible, and today there's an age of specialization which has set in. If you ask me, my experience today as well, having put in 18 years, I think I've been doing a lot of miscellaneous work. And I will not say that we will be, me or my law firm is specializing in one area of law. I mean, we are basically doing litigation as a chamber. Coming back to the expectations that our law firm or I personally have when we recruit someone is, first and foremost, is you are expected to display that hard work. And that hard work ultimately is displayed by the work that you do. Like if I have to recruit somebody for my litigation team, then obviously I will ask that, okay, which are the drafts that you have prepared? Which cases have you filed? I would like to see what you have drafted. When we see that drafting part, when you see maybe a writ petition which has been drafted by a junior counsel or a young counsel, you get to know from the quality of the draft how good the person is. And how will that come? Will only come because of hard work. Our profession is, at the end of the day, 24 hours. You have to really work hard to stay in this profession. And I think today, all my panelists will agree that this is the most upcoming, most promising profession that we have in the country today. When I graduated, I also used to ask myself a question, and sometimes ask my father as well, that, look, I am doing this. My other friends who are in business are doing this. My father always used to tell me that, look, don't compare yourself with any business person. That's different. You're going to enjoy it. Your time is going to come. So ultimately, the stress has to be on hard work, and you have to be ultimately honest to yourself. Everybody knows that the amount of time they are putting in. Obviously, don't sacrifice your family life. I know. Work is not just about, life is not just about work. There are other things as well. But at the end of the day, to impress upon any recruiter, I think the first and foremost is the work that you've done, the hard work that you've put. Even sometimes, I get impressed seeing one of the briefing counsels, how the note is prepared.
Right.
A note which has been prepared for briefing a senior. Sometimes we are going to brief a senior, and there's another briefing counsel also. A note is prepared. So you are ultimately judged by the note that you prepare. Mm. So all these things you have to keep in mind, but ultimately it's the hard work.
Right. Kirti, when we say that there needs to be growth in the practice, and there needs to be growth in our careers, what is this growth that we talk about? Is it the kind of work we are doing? Is it financial growth? Is it both? Is it something else? What is your take on this?
See,
especially for the younger lot.
Right. So actually a very good question. For the younger graduates or the fresh graduates, I don't think financial growth is any growth. The real growth is the matters that you've done, the matters that you've experienced, the courts or the judges before which you've appeared. I think that's the real growth that is there. Apart from that, people who've actually been in this profession for 3 years, 4 years, yes, financial growth does come into play, because at one point of time you want to be rewarded for what you've done, for all the hard work that you've put in. But I think nothing goes beyond your passion for this profession. You need to be extremely passionate, determined to make something in this field. Because see, we anyways have immense competition in ourselves. Everybody is doing the best that they can. So to make a mark or to leave an impression, you have to stand out, and don't be desperate to look for it. But as you keep, moving forward, and as you keep growing in the profession, you'll you yourself feel that you've actually done something great. And I think that's the utmost growth parameter that you could achieve. And having said that, actually, I do agree with Mr. Batra that gratitude is something that needs to be there, and you should be actually thankful for the exposure that you're getting. I've also worked with a senior, and I've also worked in a chamber. And when you're working in it, you may not realize what you're into, but when you leave that, you actually feel that you've actually gotten a hang of a lot of subjects that you never thought you'd, and yourself in your own practice would ever attempt to also. But you have done it there, because as Charanya said, that you have no responsibility just to prepare the brief and the note. That's the best effort that you can do. So when you put in the best, of course you do yield the best. So I think that's that.
Thank you. Mr. Dewan, your take on this in terms of growth.
Yeah. So, hello. Yeah. Hi. So obviously, as young lawyers come in and join the profession, it's very, very essential. Like the first few years, like the formative years, and we see the growth of a lawyer, how great he is at the research work, how great he is giving his inputs, because we typically, we being a as a younger law firm, we try to encourage lawyers to be deep dive into the transactions or the work from day one. We typically, that's the reason, when we hire lawyers, we will typically, as I said earlier, we will see their CVs, we'll ask them to join a particular area of practice. But once in the work, so the first 2 years, especially in the first 1 year, we expect lawyers to, to be complete. And how they are growing is, I would personally try to, with each new hiree, spend some time with him in every 4 weeks, 6 weeks to see, has he learned something new? So I think the most imperative thing for any young lawyer who joins a chamber or a law firm or working anywhere, is he learning something new? Because I always say, if in a span of 6 to 7 weeks, you've not learned anything new, probably you're in the wrong place, especially for the first 2 years. And likewise, a lawyer also should be willing enough and to learn and experiment. Because of course, we are in a profession, luckily, where clients, even if you slot a lawyer into a dispute resolution or a corporate lawyer or an IP lawyer, but the laws are so diverse, so that, it's not, no lawyer, I would say, would be doing the same thing every morning. So someone who is capable or, is willing to take new challenges, is willing to learn something new or churn a new draft. So something, obviously, even if, there are a lot of a joke around that, corporate lawyers would typically, use the templates. But yes, I think a great corporate lawyer is who can turn around the template to a much better draft, keeping in line with the client requirements, because no two clients' requirements are the same. We might be doing the same shareholders or a JV agreement or a hotel management contract for the same companies. But each time you get into negotiations, the turnaround is very different, the contents are very different, the client requirements are very different. So as a young lawyer who's making a first draft, if he is able to pick up and then relate each clause to the law, because, if you are unable to relate to the law or the regulations, or even we are in an era where laws and regulations are changing every morning. And also, so to conclude, I would say yes, for formative years for every young lawyer, it's very, very imperative, whichever area of practice he chooses, to be completely devoted to his work and be passionate as a lawyer. Because unless you give your best, and it's very clear, because we see lawyers, most of the times giving their best, but at times we see lawyers, no, they're very reluctant lawyers.
Yeah.
So I always say, I have 2 lawyers, I have 2 lot of young lawyers, at times, this is not a profession for you. Probably you come in a wrong profession, because if you're not completely devoted and you're very reluctant lawyer, then probably it's a wrong passion.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, Charanya, to you, and this would be probably a last question. We hear about work-life balance a lot. What is work-life balance, and what is it that especially the freshers or the younger students need to know as to what really work-life balance needs to be, and for how long you need to stop thinking about work-life balance? Yeah.
Let's start with a small anecdote. Of course, I think everyone here on this panel could not have even dreamt of talking about this for the first, I think even now, right? Okay? I don't think we are going to be having conversations about, there is no work-life balance, because that's how we've grown up. So I sit on many interview panels at my firm, because permanently there is, some requirement for some team or the other. So it's very interesting because a fifth year student, I always ask a question at the end of the interview that, do you want to ask me anything? Do you want to know about the firm? Do you want to know about me or about, the work, etc.? So then there was this very woke student who said, post-COVID, it's very imperative to have work-life balance. What does your firm do to ensure we have work-life balance? So everyone out here, please don't ask that question, okay? And please tell your friends not to ask that question. Work-life balance, and I'm going to give the exact answer which I gave her, right? Work-life balance is a very personal thing. What I consider to be a work-life balance could be spending, say, 1 day a week with my family. There may be people who don't want to get married. There may be people who will get married and who will say, no, I need a family and I need to have one child, I need to have 2 kids, be it either the father or the mother, and they make certain life choices, right? At the end of the day, just be conscious of the choice that you're making. See, this profession is a very long profession, Right now, I think either because of the law firms or because, you have banking individuals or you have professions such as, investment banking, and you have engineering, software, and all of these different professions where the remuneration and the kind of life they lead by the time they reach 25 to 28 is very different from the life that we are leading or the youngsters are going to lead. So it's very unfair to think that because, and it's unfair because that's how life is unfair. That's all, right? That's the bottom line. But you have to understand that, listen, you can't, just as Sidharth said, that you can't, don't compare yourself with anybody. Don't compare yourself even with, if you stood first in college, don't compare yourself even with the person who came second, right? All people, you will find meaning and you'll define success very differently. According to me, work-life balance is what you want. And in the first few years of your career, you have to understand, and please understand the luxury that you have when you don't have baggage. The luxury that you have when you don't have to take care of, either a child or a parent, etc. It's a real luxury, right? That period of your life will never come back. Now, either you can choose in that period of life to have a work-life balance and then sharply at 7 say, I'm going to turn off my mind, my computer, my laptop, my phone. There are people I've heard who will not even answer calls post 7 p.m., who will not answer calls over weekends. I can tell you offhand, right away, you're not going to progress, okay? So if you think, right, initially you need that work-life balance, it's not going to be there because this is an intellectual profession. This is a profession where you have to allow your mind, at home also once you come and, your husband is saying something and then in your mind you're like, I don't have an answer and the client is going to call me and then there is some droning and there's some child is, screaming something and, you have to decide what is to be made for dinner. But your mind is going to be just going around in circles trying to solve that one puzzle, which is your case, right? So you can be in the middle of everything and still be thinking. So you can't really switch off. So work-life balance, Petal, I really feel is for everyone to define for themselves. But the first few years, the luxury that you have of just, drowning in work. And I'm telling you now, I wish I had more time to do like that, because I got married very young. I had a child also very young. Now I'm waiting for him to leave school and leave my house and then, maybe drown myself again. But really, it's very, very precious. And you can always travel. You can always party. I'm not saying don't party. Every Saturday night, go out, get sloshed, no problem. Come back by 12 o'clock on Sunday and work, or whatever, or Monday, whatever it is. But, figure it out. Don't expect the organization or your senior. You have to understand you're always there. Your growth and your learning will be maximum when you are adding to the success of your organization or to the success of your senior, or as an in-house counsel to the success of your business. Be aligned as you can be. And it'll all happen, I guess.
I think taking from that, Charanya, I myself have woken up with a bad dream that I've probably not reached the court and something has happened. Yeah, I'm sure most of us may have experienced that in some way or the other. So thank you very much for patiently hearing us. And I feel that we've been able to cover most of the aspects that the younger generation or the freshers would want to know when it comes to winning the talent war. Yeah, thank you so much.